Hello everyone, and welcome to Down Memory Lane. Nowadays, most action and adventure games include some RPG elements in some form or another. Well, let's just say it's not a recent trend. And today, we'll see one of the earliest examples of the games that had once long been forgotten by Nintendo, Kid Icarus. So, Kid Icarus is the first game of a game designer called Toru Osawa, and for the longest time, he was alone working on it. He had in mind to create an adventure in a world inspired by Greek mythology. And when the team working on Metroid finished their project, they have been sent to help the poor guy so that he could release his game just in time for Christmas. They actually managed to finish programming the whole thing 3 days before the release date. They still had to put the game on cartridges and send it to stores, by the way. So, Angel Land's story, Kid Icarus, was released just in time on December 19, 1986 in Japan. We are in Angel Land, which is a land populated by, well, angels. It is overseen by Palutena, goddess of good, light and all this stuff, and by Medusa, goddess of evil who hates humans and just loves turning them to stone. Palutena has had enough and suddenly turns her into a monster because she can speak to her apparently. Understandably, Medusa makes herself an army in the underworld and attacks the sky, reducing Palutena's valiant army to nothing and imprisoning the goddess. You are Pit, captain of the guard, who manages to free himself from prison and leaves to beat up Medusa with the 3 sacred treasures he will find on his quest. So with your trusty bow you wander around in linear level, slaying a bunch of monsters to make it at the end of each level. Yeah, didn't you just describe like 75% of all NES titles? Well, yeah, kinda. But the monsters that are on your way, when you kill them, they give you points that give you a higher score at the end of each level. Yeah, didn't you just describe like 75? These are experience points. Yeah, when you get to a certain score, you go from 4 hit points up to 8 and so on up to 20. Monsters also give you hearts, this game's currency that you can trade to buy potions, feathers to help you when you fall down a pit, and more. Doors are also found everywhere in the levels and open bonuses to raise your strength thanks to a god who will reward you if you play well. You can also find a bunch of flying noses that attack you but give out a bunch of hearts. There is also a treasure room that gives you a special item if you break all the pots, which includes a credit card. A god can also give you a survival test that lasts about forever and a half and rewards you with a magic weapon if you survive. What's nice, but goes a bit without saying, is that the levels follow the story's logic. You start out at the bottom of the underworld, and you climb out with a music theme that will stick on your mind for weeks, then you're on solid ground, and then you climb up to the heavens. These 3 worlds have 3 levels each, ending with a labyrinth that reminded me of the first Zelda's dungeon. Now that we know what Kid Icarus is, how good is it? That game's difficulty is all over the place. As I said, you start out with 4 hit points, but it's the kind of game in which you're always getting hit for some reason, so slowly but surely you'll die. Especially if you want to get some extra cash by killing noses. Also, you only get the level up to raise your hit points when you finish a level, which are long and without any checkpoints. So if you die, you lose all progress made in this level's run, so there's no grinding experience to get stronger here. Also, don't forget to note that password down if you want to continue on later. You also know that most levels go upward, but if you want to turn back down, you die. Monsters do come in repeatedly spawning waves, so I suggest you play like a hunter or a psychopath by killing everything that moves while taking your time. The fortresses offer another kind of challenge, as they really are a labyrinth to find the bosses in all of these rooms. There are no keys to find here or any hidden treasure. You can only find some petrified monsters that you can free with a hammer to help you beat up the boss. The monsters are nothing spectacular, except for those mages that turn your head into an eggplant, stopping you from attacking. They don't seem like anything, but these are the worst. Once their magic gets you, you cannot attack. At all. Oh! How can you dodge that? The only way to free yourself from that curse is to find a clinic somewhere in the dungeon. You can also find a sheet of paper, a pencil, and a torch to find your way on a map. But if you want to save some money, just draw your own. When you get to a boss, you can finally see what those soldiers are made of. Medusa must have had such a hard time destroying that army. Thing is, you've been listening to me whine about difficulty for a while now, but actually the rest of the game is a breeze. As soon as you've gained a few levels and have won a magic weapon, especially the magic one which creates a shield around you, the game basically plays itself. The only annoying enemy starting at World 2 is those thieves which cannot be killed and might steal your magic weapon. I'm not kidding, I have more than 2 hours of recorded gameplay footage from the first world, and the last world, excluding its labyrinth, only took me 22 minutes. Bosses continue the NES tradition of being real jokes that can only take a while to kill. The very last level literally changes the whole gameplay style, while becoming a shoot 'em up, and, again, the final boss basically lets you kill it. The bestiary is quite varied, with a lot of monsters being exclusive to each world, but there are some repetitions. Well, what's with this game? We're in a kind of Greek mythology universe, and there are credit cards, wizard with an eggplant for a head, and Metroids from another planet. Yeah, really, they are from another planet. In fact, it's Metroid's director Yoshio Sakamoto who advised Osawa to include some weird elements to lighten up the game's mood. A bit weird, but it does add some flavor. When you finish the game, you get a password to restart the game with the same levels and upgrade as when you finished it. And let me tell you, doing the hard first levels with a boosted pit, it was one of the most awesome New Game Plus I've ever seen. Also, you don't really have a choice but to do the game a few times if you want the best ending. Kid Icarus is almost a hidden gem on the NES. It did sell quite well when it came out, but it was always hidden by Metroid's shadow, which made it quite forgotten for a while. It did get a sequel on the Game Boy a few years later that has known the same fate. It was only in 2008 that Pit was resurrected for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And then finally in 2012 the third game in the series, Kid Icarus Uprising, came out on 3DS, but sadly I've never touched it. The original Kid Icarus was actually quite advanced for its time. Character progression with experience points in an action game was not something we'll see often for a while, and in my opinion, it's only because of the bafflingly hard intro that a lot of people didn't play too far into it. It is also one of the first games I've talked up to this point that came out in North America. I do recommend it for patient old school gamers who want a challenge. For everyone else, let's just say there are much better action games on the NES, and it shouldn't be a top priority. You can find it on Nintendo's Virtual Console if you want to try it out. 1986 was the year in which Nintendo confirmed its place on the video game console market in Japan by releasing a great variety of games for it, and in America by releasing the NES everywhere. Here are a few more games you might know about that were released that year. 1987 will be the year in which most of the game I've talked up to this point will be released in the West, and in which more game developers will jump on the NES bandwagon by creating other series that will become console classics, which includes two of my favorite franchises that will see the light of day. Until then, we've got a few kingdoms to revisit, and next episode we'll be heading for the kingdom of Hyrule, and may the gods have mercy on my soul.